Norway's neutral status during World War II belied its immense strategic importance to both the Allied and Axis powers. There were several key reasons behind this significance. Firstly, Norway played a critical role in the iron ore trade from Sweden, a resource vital to Germany's war effort. The ore was shipped through the Norwegian port of Narvik, a lifeline particularly crucial during the winter months when much of the Baltic Sea froze over. The importance of Narvik further escalated for the British when it became evident that Operation Catherine, their plan to gain control of the Baltic Sea, was unattainable. German naval leaders like Großadmiral Erich Raeder had repeatedly warned in 1939 of the peril to Germany if Britain seized the initiative and launched an invasion in Scandinavia. Bases at Bergen, Narvik, and Trondheim would allow the Royal Navy to severely restrict German naval movements, even endangering the Kriegsmarine in the Baltic. Moreover, controlling Norway was seen as a strategic asset in the Battle of the Atlantic. The capture of Norwegian ports would create gaps in the blockade against Germany, granting access to the Atlantic Ocean. These ports would enable Germany to effectively utilize its naval power against the Allies. Moreover, control of Norwegian air bases would allow German reconnaissance aircraft to operate deep into the North Atlantic. Additionally, German U-boats and surface ships stationed in Norwegian naval bases could break the British blockade across the North Sea, posing a serious threat to convoys heading to Great Britain. Norway's geographical significance thus made it a focal point of strategic interests for both sides during World War II. Norway had a long-standing tradition of maintaining a policy of neutrality in international conflicts. This neutrality stemmed from a desire to avoid the devastation that often accompanied wars between major powers. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, Norway had managed to stay out of conflicts, such as the Franco-Prussian War and World War I. This historical precedent influenced the country's leaders to favor a non-aligned stance when World War II erupted. Additionally, Norway's geographical location in Northern Europe played a pivotal role in its neutral stance. Sharing borders with Sweden and Finland, two countries of interest to the warring parties, made Norway a potentially valuable asset. By declaring neutrality, Norway hoped to deter the major powers from viewing its territory as a strategic battlefield. Instead, it aimed to serve as a peaceful bridge between Sweden and the rest of the world. Norway maintained a relatively small and under-equipped military compared to the major European powers. This made it challenging to engage in any significant military operations or resist aggression effectively. As a result, Norwegian leaders opted for a diplomatic approach, emphasizing negotiations and dialogue as tools for resolving conflicts. Norway's small and ill-equipped military during World War II played a significant role in shaping its policy of neutrality. With a population of just over 3 million people, Norway had a limited pool from which to draw manpower for its armed forces. At the outbreak of the war, the Norwegian military numbered barely 11,000 men, a force ill-prepared for a global conflict of the scale and intensity of World War II. The country lacked the military might to actively engage in a broader conflict to the favor of any major power. Given its size, Norway realized that it couldn't contribute significantly to the war efforts of either the Allies or the Axis. Instead, Norwegian leaders opted for a strategy of neutrality and diplomacy, aiming to keep their nation out of the fray and preserve its sovereignty amidst the maelstrom of the war. Norway had historically maintained fairly good relationships with both Britain and Germany. Trade and diplomatic ties with these countries had been crucial for Norway's economic and political stability. However, the outbreak of World War II and Germany's aggressive expansion raised concerns among Norwegian leaders. The Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact in August 1939, which included the secret protocols that divided Eastern Europe into Nazi and Soviet spheres of influence, contributed to Norway's distrust of Nazi Germany. The combined attack by both nations on Poland did not improve relations either. Another significant factor in Norway's approach was the perceived threat from the Soviet Union. Norway shared a border with the Soviet Union in the far north, and there were concerns about Soviet expansionism. The Winter War between the Soviet Union and Finland in 1939–1940 heightened these anxieties. Norway's 6th Division was stationed in Finnmark and Troms to defend against a potential Soviet attack. In addition, Norway and Germany indeed shared historical, cultural, and even ethnic ties that added complexity to Norway's stance during World War II. Both nations trace their roots to early Germanic tribes, and their languages are part of the Germanic language family. Additionally, throughout history, the Hanseatic League played a big role in connecting the trade and cultural links between Northern Europe, including Norway, and the northern parts of Germany. These shared historical and cultural ties created a sense of kinship between the two nations, which was somewhat challenged by the Nazi regime's aggressive expansionist policies. As Nazi Germany pursued territorial ambitions, especially after the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact and the subsequent invasion of Poland, Norway became increasingly wary of its neighbors' intentions. This growing distrust, coupled with the broader international context, ultimately influenced Norway's shift towards the Allies, as it sought to preserve its independence in the face of an expanding Nazi regime. Initially, the German High Command preferred Norway to remain neutral to ensure safe passage for merchant vessels carrying vital iron ore. However, Gross Admiral Erich Raeder argued that Norway's ports were strategically crucial for potential conflicts with the United Kingdom. After meetings with Vidkun Quisling, a pro-Nazi former Norwegian defense minister, Hitler became interested in gaining control over Norway. Subsequently, investigation into invasion plans began, leading to the development of the comprehensive plan called Studie Nord, and, later, Weserübung. The Altmark Incident in February 1940, where a British destroyer intercepted a German ship in Norwegian waters and freed Allied prisoners, escalated tensions. 7 German soldiers were killed. Following this, the Germans sent strong protests to Norway. The Norwegians sent protests to Britain. While Norwegian, Swedish, and American experts in international law described the British action as a violation of Norwegian neutrality, the United Kingdom declared that the incident was at the most a technical violation that had been morally justified. The incident accelerated German planning for the invasion of Norway, with General Nikolaus von Falkenhorst tasked with its planning and execution. Hitler officially approved the invasion of Denmark and Norway on March 1, 1940, marking a significant turning point in the events leading to the occupation of Norway by Nazi Germany. Following the Winter War, the Allies grappled with the idea of occupying Norway or Sweden, but they were concerned that such actions might push these neutral countries into an alliance with Germany. Paul Reynaud, the new French Prime Minister, adopted a more assertive stance than his predecessor, advocating for some form of action against Germany. Winston Churchill was a vocal proponent of intervention in Scandinavia, with the goal of cutting off Germany's access to Swedish resources and aligning the Scandinavian nations with the United Kingdom. Initially, they considered a plan to use naval forces to penetrate the Baltic, but this evolved into a strategy involving the mining of Norwegian waters to disrupt iron ore shipments from Narvik and provoke Germany into attacking Norway, where the Royal Navy could engage and defeat them. This plan included Operation Wilfred, aimed at removing the safety of the leads and diverting transport ships into international waters, where they could be targeted by the Royal Navy. Concurrently, Plan R4 was devised, outlining the occupation of key Norwegian cities like Narvik, Trondheim, Bergen, and Stavanger, should Germany react to Operation Wilfred. The hope was that this operation wouldn't provoke armed resistance from the Norwegians. However, there was disagreement among the Allies about another operation called Operation Royal Marine, which involved placing mines in the Rhine River. The British supported it, but the French opposed it for 3 months, fearing German air raids on their aircraft and munitions factories, as they also relied on the Rhine. This disagreement delayed Operation Wilfred, initially scheduled for April 5th, until April 8th, as the British decided to proceed with the Norwegian operations independently from those on the continent. It is somewhat ironic that the Allies, especially Great Britain, planned to invade and occupy Norway and were on the verge of carrying it out. The Germans were just faster. 5 years later, Norway was officially liberated from the Nazis. But in 1940, the occupying power could have been British if the British had been faster.